The landscape for DeFi has officially leveled up with regulatory clarity and also some big changes from some of the OGs and leaders in the DeFi sector. I'm going to go over in this video what this means for us as a consumer and how we can take advantage of it by utilizing some of these DeFi protocols and also projects that are likely to lean into stuff like revenue generated buybacks and other things to drive value back into their DeFi ecosystem. So in this video, we're not only going to go over projects to get involved with and use their platforms, but also tokens that I think have upside in this sector. And usually we say there's a DeFi summer. I think there's probably a DeFi winter around the corner, and we're going to go over exactly how to capitalize on that. So without further ado, let's jump into it.
And as always, guys, be sure to drop down below if you're enjoying the content here on the channel, like the video, and subscribe to the channel for more. Every single week here on In the Game, we have you covered across everything you need to win in this market. And of course, I have to remind you guys, especially, that we are not financial advisors. Nothing we say on the channel is financial advice. I'm just giving my opinion on the markets and things that I am doing to navigate the crypto space. And of course, a big shout out to our sponsors here on In the Game, and actually a fitting sponsor for today's video, which is Gravity, powered by ZK Sync. And we're talking about DeFi ecosystems who are able to give value props back to their holders and back to their users at the end of the day. And Gravity has an upcoming airdrop for people who are actively trading on their perps DEX. And I really do think that this is one of the most undervalued, underfarmed perp DEXs in the entire space. I know a lot of people on this channel have taken advantage of Lighter, their upcoming airdrop, as well as stuff like we had recently seen with Aster. So drop down below, sign up to Gravity down below, and qualify for their upcoming airdrop. I do think it is going to be absolutely massive for early participants. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. The market is still a little bit in flux. Every single pump just continues to get erased. It does kind of wonder, when are we finally going to see maybe a breakout to the upside? Or honestly, if they're going to nuke the markets on us continuously, just do it in one foul swoop and take us off the table, right? But at the end of the day, it's more so just I'm sitting on my hands still. It is kind of worrying, though, that every single pump almost seems like a scam pump, and then we just see that downward momentum. It's not a fun thing in the market right now, but right now I'm not really over trading. I'm not over leveraging myself. For me, I'm just looking for new opportunities and things in the future that when the market turns around, I think we're going to have great upside on. But just a couple of tweets to highlight here before we get into the main topic of today's video. I love this right here. I miss when crypto used to crypto. Like, crypto nowadays, it's just not how it was, even last year at this time, or 2023 at the end of the year was a fun time, especially for crypto gaming tokens. Back in 2021, obviously, that goes without being said. Like, that was some of the best times in crypto that anyone has ever had if you were here last cycle. I miss when crypto used to do crypto things. That is definitely a very true statement here. But I do agree with Becker. The bull is still coming. And it is coming soon. And if we're wrong, it is what it is. But try not to get it all over your face. Look, with potential stimulus checks around the corner, the government reopening, more ETFs being pushed to the forefront, and just with rate cuts, money printing, I think a lot of good things could happen in the crypto markets. But that is to be determined. The one thing we do know is this last weekend, we actually saw some huge developments in the DeFi space. And this actually applies to more projects than meets the eye. But at the end of the day, some projects are already taking advantage of this model. But this opens up the door for some of the biggest revenue drivers in the space. And that is DEXs and big DeFi protocols. So two of the most important legal and regulatory developments happened for DeFi over this last weekend. We have staking tax guidance, as well as the Uniswap fee switch proposal. Now, let's go over what this is. If you did not, see this update from Uniswap. Uniswap had always qualified themselves or classified themselves as a decentralized DAO. But we know DAO models haven't really worked in crypto. If you're new here, DAOs are kind of like this decentralized autonomous organization where people vote on different things to happen within the protocol. And it's more so quote unquote decentralized. Like it's not the best model at the end of the day. So what is happening here is Uniswap is saying they are no longer longer a DAO, which is moving them into the fact that they are going to be doing buybacks and fees on the Uniswap token as a value driver. They are saying the DAO model was not decentralized due to regulatory struggles. They kind of just had to mask things until they had regulatory clarity in their project and just from different jurisdictions, mainly the United States and their blurry laws around DeFi, staking, all this different stuff. So Uniswap, the OG decentralized exchange on Ethereum, the one that, most of the volume runs through on ETH, we are actually seeing them flip the switch and come in with buybacks and fees for the Uniswap token. And look, this is a great day for DeFi and Ethereum, as this tweet says. I'm not going to go over a lot of the stuff here. A lot of it is a little bit of a rant in this tweet, but they did the right thing here. Kind of, they're not here to F you over. They're not dumping on your head anymore. A lot of the stuff that has been worrisome about DAOs at the end of the day. And in the previous tweet, we've seen stuff like Arbitrum, Optimism, Lido. They've all kind of changed their model as a quote unquote DAO and kind of abandoned that. And I do think now that we have clarity, this is a great thing for different projects to be able to jump into the waters as well. But down here we see Uniswap is now doing buybacks with the fee switch activated. So all of their revenue, they're going to put back into the token. All protocol fees to Uniswap burn. Labs and the foundation is aligned, and 100 million Uniswap burn is to make up for lost time. They're going to do that at one time. So we have seen a lot of clarity in the space, but what does this mean for us, the investor? To me, this brings us from a space where it's very shady, a lot of the stuff that happens behind the scenes of a DeFi protocol, the amount of money they bring in, they don't put it back into the project. Where is that money going? A lot of the crypto participants always wonder this from any project in any space, but especially the exchanges, and we had recently been seeing Hyperliquid. They buy back their token every single day. And right now, over the annualized time period, they're looking at 1.15 billion in revenue because people buy into this type of stuff. They love when a project puts their money back into the token that gives big contributions back to their holders and back to their users. So it's a company with a flywheel that makes a ton of money, but also puts a ton of money back into the project and takes Hyperliquid supply off the market. And we're recently seeing this with projects like Aster, which their season 3 just ended. Stage 4 is beginning here very shortly. It actually just began today. So the new airdrop checker for Aster goes live on December 1st. So about 3 weeks from now. And I do think this will be a little bit juicier of an airdrop for participants, by the way, because I think it was less saturated than stage 2 whenever Aster had first came out. But they're doing buybacks. They did $100 million or 100 million Aster buyback over the last month. So they're also leaning into project makes profit. Project puts money back into the token. It's a great flywheel for taking supply off the market, as we've seen with Hyperliquid. So what other projects out there am I having my eyes on for token upside? Who's going to lean into this other than Uniswap? But also B, who is the projects to kind of maybe take advantage of and use their protocol for future token rewards? So let's go ahead and jump into it. First and foremost, I would be looking kind of like what 𝗍𝗶𝗄𝗏 actually said under here. You have to look at Solana. The amount of on-chain activity on Sol, it's very obvious that you should be looking at projects maybe like a Jupiter. Let's just go look at the Jupiter token. I'm actually surprised that this hasn't moved a little more. They had mentioned buybacks in the past, and now with Uniswap flipping the switch, I think that it's time for one of the biggest protocols on the entire Solana blockchain to say, hey, let's jump into this. So to me, you look at the price action here over the year, down 30%. But a lot of that, if we remember that Jupiter airdrop back in this time period, a lot of sell pressure over the course of time. But to me, Jupiter should have a ton of upside if the market does turn around. But on top of that, this is the grade A Solana project that I could see doing tons of buybacks based off their fee structure. Jupiter, for example, here has $3 billion total value locked, but over the year, they have done $250 million in annualized revenue. This is fantastic and definitely enough to stimulate buybacks and put them back into the chart. So this is one I absolutely would say is going to start doing some buybacks. And if they do that, then a lot of traders, the thing is, just like Hyperliquid, they're going to bring their volume there and hold the token for that value accrual over time. So that is an awesome flywheel, as we have seen. Another one is 𝗎𝗎𝗓. And 𝗎𝗎𝗓, look, they have made over $1 billion in their timeline. And after the airdrop, there was a huge sell. But now over the course of this week, people are speculating the same thing that I am, that this token is probably one of the biggest candidates to do the same exact thing that Uniswap is doing and just pour a ton of that money into token buybacks. This would cause a big value accrual for all the airdrop holders who have held so far. Like, I sold 80% of my airdrop because when you get an airdrop, take profits. Like, I think that that's standard, but at the same time, I think that long term, especially if the Solana trenches come back and people are using 𝗎𝗎𝗓 at the same level they were playing with 12 months ago, and I do think Solana on-chain will make a huge return as well. 𝗎𝗎𝗓 will be the feature platform, and I think the must-hold token in the Solana ecosystem at that point in time. So for me, I would be heavier looking into Solana stuff, because I think if on-chain comes back for Solana, I think 𝗬𝗶 and 𝗎𝗎𝗓 are both going to execute a buyback strategy. Those would be two that I'm heavily looking into, but also a little bit of a sleeper, especially, and look, people don't think it's a sleeper on the charts, so I wouldn't be buying into this pump currently, but 𝗨𝗏𝗏 is the feature DeFi protocol on the base chain. You can swap, you can LP, you can lock in, you can vote, all this different stuff. It's kind of like what Black Hole did. They made basically the 𝗨𝗏𝗏 of Avalanche, but with the base airdrop around the corner, man, I could totally see 𝗨𝗏𝗏 doing some strategy of a buyback, or, you know, putting revenue back into the chart or something similar to Uniswap. But on top of that, when Base announces their token, this thing's going to pump like crazy because everyone's going to be filtering volume through the 𝗨𝗏𝗏 platform. So this is absolutely a sleeper, in my opinion, with potentially the biggest catalyst that we've seen in a long time. Coinbase launching their official blockchain token, bringing tons of volume over to the 𝗨𝗏𝗏 platform. So that's something I'm absolutely on the lookout for. So for me, I'd be looking into tokens like Jupiter, 𝗎𝗎𝗓, and 𝗨𝗏𝗏𝗏. But one that I think is a big sleeper moving forward in the coming months is Project X. So this is on Hyperliquid. This is more so use case. So if you want to put some money away here, you can literally put your Hyperliquid to work and earn a couple percent. The main thing here is you're farming the future airdrop, and they make enough revenue. 24-hour fees is over $100,000. So over a month time period, that's $3 million in fees taken in. They are launching a token. You can farm this right now just by putting $100 into an LP. You can start making money hand over fist just by the future airdrop accrual. It doesn't matter right now, the short term, your yield. And if you have more money to play with, you can set some money aside here and you can make 33%, 60%, 100% on pump and hype combo. And a lot of people are bullish on both of those, as they're both doing protocol buybacks as well. Fits right into the theme of this video. So this is one I would absolutely be farming. I'll drop you guys a link down below if you aren't on Project X. One of the best things about this entire protocol, guys, you can swap any token to any chain instantaneously. Hyper EVM Base, Abstract, Bitcoin, BSC, Hyperliquid, Gravity, Metis. Every chain imaginable is on here, and it's the easiest, quickest swap, bridge. If anything, just bring your swap volume over here, and you'll also earn airdrop accrual. And then a platform, I would not be surprised. This will definitely be the riskiest one on the list. And it's unfortunate because when you look at the metrics of this platform, it's pretty crazy, the fact that the market cap is where it is on this token. Let's just find the Black Hole token really quick. Like, this is absurd. So let's just look at the metrics straight up. $8 million market cap. This thing, I cannot believe that this thing is sitting at an $8 million market cap, when at the end of the day, we can go back here, look at Black Hole as a protocol. Bias aside, whatever you think about, you know, anyone. A lot of people blame, and of course, same thing with, across the whole industry. Tokens gone down a ton on Black Hole ever since launch. People blame Elio, right? It's all Elio's fault. He must be the source of this. He's a grifter, this. That's not really the case. Like, you look at this project, And right now, their annualized revenue would be $27.9 million. And I don't know how you would value a DeFi protocol, but like a SaaS, let's just say a software company, you would take that 30 mil, multiply it by 10. Your company at that point is usually worth around $200 to $300 million if you were to sell that business. But the fact that this is crypto, it's on chain, it's all happening, instantaneously. I don't know what the value of this would be if you were to go sell this to a buyer, right? Like a traditional exit. It would be way more, I tell you, than $8 million. That is a ridiculous market cap for something that is on pace to do $30 million in annualized revenue. And even if we look at the shorter term here on their revenue, that's why I love DeFi Llama. Down here, we see the income statement for Black Hole. You can see $3.97 million in fees so far in Q4. So looking ahead, we're about halfway through November. That's about $8 million that this project will make in fees straight up until the end of the year. Like, I don't know. This to me is super undervalued. It would be catching a falling knife at this point in time. My exposure, I've locked up a bunch of tokens in here, and I kind of rotate around LPs. As you can see, there's a lot of different LPs yielding different amounts, but I would not be surprised to see this make a major comeback. I know Elio's not going to let this die. And it's not dead. It's crazy to me, the on-chain activity with the token versus what's going on the platform. But that is definitely the riskiest one that I am talking about in this video. But I'm definitely looking into and will be taking some shots at stuff like Meteora. I already have a bag of Meteora, but Jupiter, Aerodrome. I think that this new legislation, this new kind of clarity regulatory wise, and also the Uniswap switching their model, a lot of these DeFi exchanges and a lot of these DEXs over time have kind of just followed Uniswap because they've been the target of the SEC before. They're kind of like the OpenSea. Like when you think of NFTs, you think of OpenSea. When you think of DEXs, you think of like Uniswap or PancakeSwap, traditionally, right? The older guard of projects. So I think the newer guard of projects are going to lean into this pretty heavily, and those would be the main ones that I'm looking at for upside. On top of that, Hyperliquid and Aster, because they are actively already doing this with their revenue. So that's today's video, guys. Let me know if there's any DeFi projects I didn't mention that you would be looking at down below in the comments. Tomorrow and Friday, we'll have you covered with some more market updates as well as our prediction markets video on Friday. So like the video down below, subscribe to the channel for more, and of course, trade responsibly, stay bullish, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.